Springfield Board of Mayor and Aldermen, regular meeting is called to order. Please stand and we'll have the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here. 1.2, our moment of silence.
Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for the privilege of entertaining the business for the people. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings, Lord, that you have established, Lord, that you've given us the democracy and the way of doing things peacefully and orderly. We ask for you to come into this meeting, govern us, Lord, in the way in which you'll be pleased. We thank you for this great city. We thank you for the great progress that we have made as citizens of this city. We thank you again, Lord, and we give your name the praise and all the blessings. Amen.
Amen. 1.3, the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of Board of Mayor and Aldermen held on July 18, 2023. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Harris, a second by Alderman Hubbard. Do we have any corrections, ladies and gentlemen? No corrections, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 1.4, our public comment period. This is something the state legislature is now legislated us to do, and no one signed up tonight for our public comment, so we'll move on to our next items. 1.5 is our public hearing. Ordinance 23-22, or ordinance amending the fiscal year 2023's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general funds and utility funds operating budgets. If anyone would like to speak, please come to the mic, state your name and your address, and you have 2 minutes to speak. No one would like to speak? The public hearing is closed. Public hearing number 2, ordinance 23-24, ordinance rezoning 3 parcels on Highway 41 South from Commercial Service District CS to Agriculture District A. If you would like to speak, please come forward. No one would like to speak? The public hearing is closed. Our legislative agenda. 2.1, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-22 on a second and final reading. An ordinance amending the fiscal year 2024's annual budget for the city of Springfield by amending certain general funds and utility funds operating budget. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Green to discuss. Questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, sir. Our
Mayor.
city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. This needs to be amended on second reading. We have included in your packet on an updated Exhibit A, which is the final, or contains the final list of carryover items as we close out the FY23 books. So we're waiting on some invoices to come in and figure out exactly what those amounts needed to be and what needed to be carried over. So that's the final version if someone would amend.
Thank you.
Need a second.
Pick it up.
Yes.
So we have, okay, we have a motion to amend. Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris, a second by Alderman Gregg. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Lisa Crockett, thank you for all your hard work in your department. This is the final. Closing it out. Woo-hoo.
Thank the managers
Yes.
for accepting the cuts.
Okay.
Some accepted them better than others. That's okay.
Oh, they did?
Probably had told
They
all
all,
of them, yeah.
they all seem happy.
Any questions? No questions? We're ready for a vote on the amendment. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we're back on the main motion as amended.
A well-established city manager budget. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? No comments, we're ready for a vote as amended. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.2, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-24 on a second and final reading. An ordinance rezoning 3 parcels on Highway 41 South from Commercial Service District CS to Agriculture District A. I should have recorded it when I talked about it the first time in the public hearing. We have a motion by Vice Mayor Harris and a second by Alderman Gregg to discuss. Questions? Discussion. Second and final reading. No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.3, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-23 on a first reading. Or ordinance amending ordinance 19-02 by amending Title 8, Chapter 2 of the Springfield Municipal Code entitled Beer. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard to discuss. Do we have a second? Second made by Alderman Green. Okay. I'm gonna call on our city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. As you notice in your packet, what is presented before you tonight is what was deferred last month. So it was the ordinance. So that's technically what is on the floor, what is to be discussed this evening, since that was the ordinance that was deferred. However, Mayor, I believe if you'd like the city attorney, you all had asked the city attorney to do some research last month, and I believe she has some findings for
Yes.
you all.
Ms. Barty?
After completing some research on this matter, I believe that we can change the core commercial and do away with the 100 feet, but it would have to be the entire core commercial district. There could not be an overlay within the district that distinguished in that particular area.
Okay. Questions? I'm sure we all have some. Yes, Mr. Hubbard?
Repeat that again. Do away with the 100 feet? That's what you said, correct?
Well, I'm saying that whatever you do in the core commercial, it has to be consistent. One of the things that was discussed last month, and you asked me to evaluate, was whether or not we could make an exception, especially, I believe it was stated, on churches and specific established areas and whatnot. But it must be consistent for the entire core commercial. So it would have to be, you would maintain the 100 feet in core commercial, or you do away with core commercial.
Just like we did uptown. We didn't have any specific. When we did the overlay.
I think what Ms. Barty is saying that is an overlay is not lawful
Correct.
to do. It would have to
And
be the zoning, the entire zoning district.
Can't do part of it and not all of it.
Correct.
I think there were two things that were discussed last month. One was conditional use type setup that would distinguish between a traditional church and a storefront church. And then the second, and that's not lawful according to Ms. Barty. And then the second thing that was discussed was a potential overlay to not include the entire core commercial district, but include that which is Main Street proper, where the commercial activity exists in, what we think of and know. And that is also, I believe, according to her findings and what she's reporting, not lawful.
Okay. I know we all probably have questions, so.
I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
it's, on that end, then, it's either leave the 100 feet there or to remove the 100 feet, and then we're back to the thing that we talked about before. Even if we leave the 100 feet in, and we're talking about this particular property on South Main, it's in part of the core commercial district. Even if there's something built there, and we have the 100 feet on the books, and they're not 100 feet within the church, they can still get a liquor license from the state of Tennessee.
Yes.
And, you know, chances, I think Mr. Trotter may have made the comment, chances of anything ever being built there are slim, but certainly it's not none, because you don't ever know what's going to take place. And, I mean, personally, I think we're probably gonna have to do it, and I'm not gonna say that we're not gonna be forced, or we're not gonna be presented at some point and doing it throughout the whole city of Springfield, because it's 100 feet across the whole city. And we're just talking about the core district at this point. So I don't know what we will face if someone on the other end of town comes in and says, you've done this on core district. I
Good
want the same
question.
thing. So-
Good question. So we could just do it for the whole city.
That is great.
Mr. Trotter,
I personally think we should do it.
for the whole city?
For the whole city.
I agree.
And the property in question, you know, I probably shouldn't say this, but a place to sell beer would probably look better than what's already there across the street from the church.
Okay. Mr. Hubbard? I'm just gonna go around the room.
I was, you know,
You don't have to
I
comment
was,
if you don't
I
want
was really, utterly concerned about two churches in that area.
to, because of the age.
The Methodist Church, the community, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to respect them.
Mr. Gregg?
I guess I'm old school. There's certain places that beer don't belong, in my opinion, around children and churches and things like that, but
Not gonna be in the church.
Okay.
It's not gonna be in the church.
Ms. Arnold?
I think that we should do the whole city, because I think if we don't, we're just going to be facing this over and over and over again. And if the state has already said that liquor can be served, it feels a little, you know, null and void to not have beer alongside that. And also, it gives us the opportunity to potentially welcome in more businesses that want to be doing this and that want to be paying sales tax, which is also a really great thing.
Ms. Green?
I mean, I just would like to kind of say ditto, but I think that, again, just with the state having already got the rules, I feel like this is kind of a moot point. It's really strange how the state has divided it, but since it is, I see no reason why it shouldn't also just be the entire city.
Thank you, Ms. Green. She'll soon be Mrs. Green. No, she'll soon have a new last name.
I'll answer anything.
Mayor,
Sir?
Chief Head, any opinion from the police department as far, I mean, I'm ready to proceed with the core district. I'm not saying that we're doing the whole city or amending it of that nature tonight. Do you have any thought as to what that's gonna change for y'all by, if you drop the 100 feet citywide?
Come to the mic,
I mean,
please.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, just if you have any opinion of what you think.
Well, as anything, we serve at the pleasure of the board, so whatever you all decide will be quite fine with us. We'll enforce what you need to or not enforce. We don't, knock on wood, we don't have a lot of problems out of our establishments that serve alcohol right now. We do our best with ABC to try to monitor these things, but we, in the past, I know we've seen some issues at some places, but right now, currently, most are complying with what they need to do, and we welcome businesses that are good for the city.
So if you have a liquor store that violates selling to a minor, does that come before our beer board, or does it go before the state? Do you know, Mr. Martin?
What they're selling.
Let's say if we had a liquor store that's in business in the city limits of Springfield, or a liquor by the drink that's sold to a minor, and they're caught, does it go before the state?
I think there's a difference
Discipline.
between on-premise and off-premise. The
Okay.
on-premise,
Well, neither one then.
on the
Okay.
on-premise, I believe that citation would come before the beer board, and Ms. Barty would know.
If it was
But
beer.
the off-premise,
Only if they sell beer.
Beer.
only if they sell beer, okay.
If they sold
So
them liquor, it's-
Liquor entirely is to the state,
Liquor is totally to the state.
totally regulated, okay.
Interesting laws.
Help me out. If the liquor store sells to
Thank you,
a
Chief.
minor, does the state take that up? I'm just gonna get it clear in my mind. Or do we,
That's what we're asking.
we can't touch it?
We cannot touch it.
Okay.
Liquor and high gravity beer, which I believe is 8% and higher now. The state of Tennessee, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission has exclusive jurisdiction over that, and we cannot do anything.
Ms. Barty, is that handled in general sessions court, then those criminal citations with that, is that how that's handled?
Yes.
Okay.
But our police department can give a citation and kick it up in general court?
Contributing to the delinquency.
Of a minor. That's what I was gonna say. Okay. I'm clear.
State versus the city. Okay, other questions? Any more discussion?
But tonight, we're just voting on the core district, is that correct?
Well, what's in front of us is what was brought last month.
Which is only the core district.
Which is core commercial, yes, sir. That was the original proposal, was to eliminate the distance requirement in core commercial.
That's what we have on the floor. Any more discussion?
Tim, what's your thought to move it to citywide?
I don't know. I agree with Jeff in the sense that I'm old school to a part that I don't think it should be around churches and that, but yet, if they're going to be able to get a liquor license, then
Yeah.
what face are we saving by not doing it? So, I don't know.
I think, are we allowed to make an amendment tonight for this, Ryan, or do you have
Yes.
to take
You
it
are.
back?
You
Okay.
have, you push your button to amend,
Because I was gonna, we don't,
if you want to amend.
I mean, we'll see. I'd like to amend that it's citywide. Because I just feel like if we don't, we're gonna have this discussion over and over 10 more times, and we just have important things to do, so.
Okay?
Do we need a second on the amendment?
Yeah,
I think that,
if you.
Sorry, I tried hitting it, it won't take
I
it.
think Bobby did it.
Okay. Alderman Arnold has made an amendment for citywide. And we had a second. Who's second? Mr. Trotter?
Yes.
Okay. It's not on the screen, so there we go. There you go. Thank you. Okay, discussion on this.
Are we saying regardless of the zoning? So you're doing away with 100 feet regardless of what the zoning is?
In the CC.
In core commercial.
In the core commercial.
But like someone can't sell beer out of their house.
No, this amendment you're making is citywide. Is that correct?
Well, so let me ask you this,
They were
wouldn't
doing-
it be wherever we would allow a liquor license to be, we would allow a beer license to be?
So
Correct.
if I understand your amendment correctly, you're eliminating the 100-foot distance requirement anywhere that an on-premise permit could be issued.
Yes,
Right, okay.
yes.
The proposal the proposal originally was to eliminate that distance requirement in core commercial. So her amendment is to do away with limiting that distance elimination to core commercial and just having no, so we would rewrite for on second reading, we would tweak this to make it be a lot cleaner than the way it looks tonight, to have no mention effectively of a 100-foot
No distance.
distance between schools, daycares, parks, playgrounds, or churches. We would effectively eliminate, if you're looking at your packet, I'll tell you what we would eliminate.
Okay, we gotta get this up on the screen for the amendment.
Yeah, while she's typing the
Yeah.
amendment, we'll give her a minute to do that. But if you look at the, under 8-212, which is the minimum distance, and you look at subsection 2, effectively, what would be eliminated would be the first paragraph as well as A, B, and C, and the on-premise permit provisions would pick up with that next paragraph that says on-premise permits shall not be issued except to one eating establishment, because all of the preceding language deals with distance requirement.
So by doing that, we are just basically matching what the state has already determined regarding high-gravity beer and alcohol. Correct?
That, it would be, I don't know that the state's already determined, I don't know if the state had a distance requirement or not, so I don't know if they eliminated
But
one.
going forward, I guess I'm trying to say going forward, our policy would match the state policy.
It would be the same, someone could get a liquor license and an on-premise beer permit without regard to how their
Right.
proximity to
Correct.
it.
Okay.
So it would just match what the state is currently doing for liquor, the city of Springfield could do for beer.
Okay,
Well-
hold on
Under
just 1 second. So you're good with what we've gone over, and Mr. Trotter seconded, you're good with that?
I think Hubbard had a question.
Okay, we're gonna take questions in a
Okay.
minute.
But what is the amendment that you're making, to do away with the 100 feet citywide?
To do away with 100 feet citywide for on-premise permitting. So wherever the city, or excuse me, wherever the state would allow liquor to be able to apply for a liquor license, you could also apply for a beer license, regardless of the 100 feet, because that wouldn't be there anymore.
So if it's a convenience store that's wanting to be out here in front of the Civic Center, in front of the Baptist Church, they're not gonna be, they would not be able to get a liquor license.
It's on premise, she's saying on premise only.
That's
So I mean,
correct.
that's
Yeah.
off premise, so they would not be able, the state would have nothing to do with them, because that would be
For a-
only beer.
For a beer license, correct. Off premise, so convenience store, one thing. On premise, another thing. This is limited to on premises only.
The 100 feet.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, we do have regulations, we do have the same distance requirement. If you scroll down a little farther and look at section 3, that is off-premise permits, and the same language appears, no off-premise type permit will be issued authorizing the storage, sale, or manufacturing of beer within 100 feet of the same daycare, park, playground. So the same language exists for off-premise permits, and that would affect your, convenience store and things like that, and its proximity to daycares, parks, playgrounds, or churches. We have only dealt, and I'm not trying to confuse the issue, but we've only dealt so far with on-premise because of the initial
The
request
the
that came
restaurants.
up, the restaurant
We're
type
talking about
situation.
restaurants.
So in this original motion, in this original thing tonight, it dealt only with on premise.
Correct.
Okay, so go back to where we are on South Main and the two churches. If a restaurant wanted to build across the street, they would be able to get a liquor license from the state of Tennessee, and if we change this, they would be able to get a beer permit for on premise from the city of Springfield, correct?
That is correct.
So if a convenience store built across the street from these two places, they would not be able to get a beer permit because they are off premise and they are not within the distance.
If they are within 100 foot of one of those.
Right. If they, yeah.
Yeah,
if they're
then they
within
would
100
not
foot.
be eligible for an
So we're
off-premise
not
beer
changing
permit.
anything for off premise, just on premise.
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Hubbard,
we
you had a
approve.
question.
I got about 4,000 people to represent, and the most of my, the general consensus from my citizens, let's start on the old school. You know, protect the sacred places. But they do understand that
They want restaurants?
restaurants gonna come progress and stuff, so, they kinda left it up to me. I mean, I'm old school, but I may have to kind of follow the progress.
Yeah. Mr. Trotter, do you have something?
I think I made it clear,
Yes, sir.
I'm voting.
You're voting for it? Yes, sir. Anybody on this end of the table?
Just one quick,
Yes.
sorry, I'm asking so many questions. One more question now. Have we ever gotten any off-premise requests on this? No, right? This has always been people who have wanted on-premise permitting.
We've had no one,
Yeah,
not that
no.
I'm aware of, that's
Okay.
raised
That's all.
an issue of an off-premise
Okay.
as far as a
It's
convenience
always
store,
been
not
restaurants.
that I'm aware of.
I was just curious.
Okay. Gentlemen, questions?
Whatever Charlie gonna say.
Questions on the amendment? Are we ready to vote?
Ready to vote?
Okay. Ready for the vote? Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 6 to 1.
Okay. Okay, we will go back and vote on the original as amended. Any questions? We've discussed that quite a bit. We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 5-2.
Thank you.
Sleep, right?
2.4, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-25 on a first reading. Ordinance rescinding capacity fees for water and wastewater connection. Do we have a motion? We have a motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Green to discuss. Discussion, please. Yes, sir. Our city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. This is rescinding, I sent you an email to this effect. This is rescinding the capacity fees that were put in place about 17 years ago. Those are very, very minimal fees, but they are fees that are passed along to folks that are building and developing. And with the impact fees, the system development fees that are in place now, there's a duplication of effort there. And so we pledge to you that we take a look at things. There's a few things tonight that you'll see that we've taken a look at. We're continuously looking at things to see if we need to do things. We're not going to charge fees that are unnecessary, and so we recommend that you rescind these fees.
Okay. Questions?
I second that rescinding motion.
Got a lot of things we need to be looking at from the past that may not have been looked at in a long time.
Clean it up.
It takes time, though. Everybody else has regular jobs to do. So I thank you. No questions? We're ready for vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.5, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-26 on a first reading, an ordinance amending the City of Springfield Condition of Service Manual by adding the policy entitled Installation of Fire Hydrant Assembly. Motion made by Alderman Green, a second by Alderman Hubbard to discuss. I'm going to call on our city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. This is another update. This one goes the opposite way. This one effectively raises the fire hydrant installation. It's okay, Kim. This effectively raises the fire hydrant install fee because currently it's set at, I believe, around $700. I believe is or $1,500. Okay, sorry, $1,500, and the fire hydrant, I think, is about 3 times that cost. And so we are effectively subsidizing the development cost for the fire hydrant. So this changes that to not reflect a static number, but instead reflect the cost of installation, so it stays current with whatever that is, and that way our ratepayers don't get stuck paying for someone else's developer's fire hydrants.
Okay. Discussion? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.6, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-27 on a first reading, or ordinance rescinding the topographical map copy fee. Motion made by Alderman Green and a second by Alderman Hubbard to discuss. This is another one of those fees that we've looked at. Yes, sir.
This is also is something that we don't need anymore. The public records policy sort of superseded this one, and it used to be, years ago, topographical maps would have to be copied, and it was on large paper, and there was a cost associated with that. Now everybody does everything via email and electronically and via flash drive, so this is a little bit antiquated, and so this is another one that we recommend you rescind.
Okay. No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.7,
Mayor.
discuss. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, we've read these first readings out loud. Will you explain why we're not doing that?
It has been brought to our attention tonight that the question has been asked, why do we read first readings? Because we've always done it. I've been here 15 years. Mr. Hubbard's been here longer, and 31. So we've always done it that way. really don't like that answer. Why? And we started researching, and it's been brought to our attention that it's not in the charter. And so Ms. Bartiz put her blessing on it, that we will not be doing first readings anymore. And Melissa's very excited that we're not doing first readings. She just wished when we were doing the budget, she didn't have to do that first reading. So, you know, she said it's a little late, but
Just so the public will know.
thank you. 2.6, yes.
It was just something in the inception of this new city government that we had. You know, back then, we thought the state had directed us for first readings and third votes. But now, we eliminated the third reading, so it's time to eliminate that.
It's just like some of those fees and those copying fees.
Just
Every now and then, you just need to go through and say, why am I doing this?
Get rid of it.
So, that's why. 2.7, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-28, or ordinance amending the City of Springfield Condition of Service Manual by amending the portion of policies regarding water and wastewater tap fees. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Gregg to discuss. I'm gonna call on our city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. This one also goes the other way. This is something that is similar to the fire hydrant, an ordinance that hadn't been reviewed, a fee structure that hasn't been reviewed in quite some time, and effectively means our ratepayers have been subsidizing new development and the cost of installing taps. So this brings that. You can see, we also added some comparisons. You can see that there are a couple of other cities that haven't updated theirs and some that have, and it gets it closer to the actual cost. So it's reimbursement for actual cost rather than a static fee that doesn't stay consistent with the cost of the item and the cost of inflation.
Okay. Discussion? You can tell we're finished with budget and have some time to do some other things. No questions, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.8, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-29 on a first reading, or ordinance rezoning a property at 15th Avenue from commercial limited services, CLS, to high-density residential district, R7. Do we have a motion to discuss? Motion made by Alderman Trotter to discuss, and a second by Alderman Hubbard. Questions on this change? No questions on the first reading? No questions, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.9, discuss and possible take action on ordinance 23-30 on a first reading, or ordinance amending section 8 of ordinance 23-18 and setting a new property tax rate for the fiscal year 2024. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Green to discuss. Our new property tax rate is something that has to be done every time that we have appraisals done, and that lowers our tax rate. Any questions? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.10, discuss and possible take action on resolution 23-18, a resolution declaring certain properties surplus and authorizing the disposal of such properties. Motion to discuss. Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris, a second by Alderman Green. Any questions on this? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.11, discuss and possible take action on resolution 23-19. An initial resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $13 million in aggregate principal amount of general obligation public improvement bonds for the city of Springfield, Tennessee. Alderman Green made the motion to discuss, a second by Alderman Hubbard.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just to kind of explain what we're doing here, this is these expenditures were appropriated in the budget,
Yes,
and
sir.
that they were the ones that were allocated to be funded with bonds. And this is, first one, there are two items tonight on the agenda. The first one is the initial resolution, which also provides for the notice requirement for the public. The second one is the issuance and contains the terms of the issuance. So that'll cover the next one if you all approve the resolution to issue the bonds. But these are budgeted expenditures.
This is bookkeeping, so we can move forward. No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.12, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 23-20, a resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $13 million in the principal amount of the general, in the general obligation public improvement bonds for the city of Springfield, Tennessee, making provisions for the issuance, sale, and payment of said bonds. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, second by Alderman Green to discuss. Questions? Oh, wait, I didn't read the top of the page. And establishing the terms thereof and the proceeds therefrom, and providing the levy of taxes for the payment of the debt services on the bonds. So sorry, we gotta get it legal. We gotta pay. We have to pay the bonds back. We can't find any that doesn't allow us not to pay back. So sorry.
Still looking though.
Yeah. Any questions on this? Any discussion? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. I'm sorry. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Sorry, folks, my sinus and allergies are killing me. 2.13, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 23-21, a resolution authorizing the appropriation of funds for the fiscal year 2024's annual budget for the financial aid of nonprofit, charitable, and nonprofit civic organizations in accordance with Section 6-54-111 in Tennessee Code annotated. Motion made by Alderman Green, a second by Alderman Hubbard to discuss. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.14, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 23-22, a resolution accepting a performance bond for the Autumnwood Estates, Section 3. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Green to discuss. Do we have any questions on this performance bond? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 2.15, discuss and possible take action on Resolution 23-23, a resolution adopting a selection policy for TDOT projects. Motion made by Alderman Hubbard, a second by Alderman Green to discuss. Any questions on this TDOT resolution? No questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. Our administrative agenda, 3.1, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments of the retail electric rates of the Springfield Electric Department due to the wholesale fuel cost adjustments by the Tennessee Valley Authority. Motion made by Alderman Green, a second by Alderman Trotter. Mr. Terry? Lower. Nice words. Nice words. Any questions? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.2, discuss and possible take action on the adjustments in the monthly gas rates of the Springfield Gas Department. Motion made by Alderman Green, a second by Alderman Hubbard. Mr. Riddle.
Unfortunately, the PGA is up 5.8%.
Shoo. Okay, we won't fuss at you because you're just a pass-through. You're just the messenger, we know. Any questions?
What's at the all bearers? They're the one that's making all that profit.
And we can tell that the gas has gone up. You should take note from your friend. Any discussion other than me picking on him? We're ready for a vote. I'm sorry, I just had to do that. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.3, discuss and possible take action on the facility study presentation. We don't need a motion, do we?
You do need a motion.
We do need a motion. Motion to hear this presentation. Do we have a motion to hear the presentation?
It's not showing.
Do it old school?
So moved.
Old school.
I got it.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris, a second by Alderman Green. I'm gonna call on our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have uploaded the draft facility study. We had the long-awaited and long-anticipated facility study. It is uploaded in your packet. That is a draft. What we're going to do tonight is Jacob Cherry and Beth Meadows, did I get that right? Did I didn't have that in front of me, your last names, are here tonight from Wold HFR to present to you some kind of the high-level takeaways from the facility study, what the priorities are, and they're gonna present that to you tonight. We have until Friday of this week to, you have as long as you want for questions. You ask questions tonight and all of that. But we have until Friday of this week to sort of finalize things, and they will publish to us the final facility study from which we can draw. So tonight is a draft. There are some things that we've seen that we've been in contact with Beth and Jacob about and Steve, who is their principal there, who couldn't make it tonight. But that we're going to, that we want to tweak for some factual type situations, but also know that anything presented in the facility study is conceptual. It's not an absolute design. It's not what we're going to build. I preface that because there's some sticker shock that will take place with the study and with some of the things that I think Beth might be willing or might be presenting to you tonight. So anyway, we appreciate what they've done. They've been great to work with, and you all know this is one of our major pain points, and this is where we're behind. And so I'm excited about having this finished. I'm not excited about spending the money, but I'm excited about having this finished and looking at where we need to go in the future. So Mayor, I think Beth Meadows and Jacob Cherry would like to present tonight.
Please come forward. You know, there might be certain folks in the room that might need to stay around because we might need to borrow some more money. And we've asked for this study, and we all know that we have certain areas in our city that facilities are a major issue. And that's very important when people are moving in and talking about moving their businesses and their corporations to the city of Springfield, that we're the first place they stop. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, good evening, everyone. Like Ryan said, my name is Jacob Cherry. I'm an architect, project manager, and associate, Wald Architects and Engineers, here with Beth Meadows, the principal and partner. This evening to give you an update on the Springfield Municipal Facility Study that we've been working on. First, I'd like to thank all the city staff, department heads, city manager Ryan Martin, assistant city manager Candace Tillman, for their assistance in helping us as we go through this study, and of course you all for being here and allowing us to present tonight. I've been asked to be direct about the outcome of the study, so I'll get right to it. There are a number of departments, administrative buildings in need of replacement, and others that warrant expansion and renovations. The three highest priority and biggest ticket items are listed here: replacement, water wastewater department, the police department, and then the city hall. How do we get there? Well, we start with asking questions about what do you have? Get an understanding of your current operations, facilities inventory, the condition of the facilities to establish a baseline understanding of where you are today. And then we say, what do you need? Through interviews, walkthroughs with department heads, space needs questionnaires, review of current design factors and considerations, we worked up detailed space requirements, projected out over the next 10 to 20 years, which leads us to what should we do? Generally speaking, that leads to, did I skip a slide? There we go. Generally speaking, that leads to two distinct approaches to fulfilling your programmatic needs: alterations and improvements to existing buildings or replacements and new facilities. So for each department, we've developed and reviewed existing site plans to build that understanding of context, site constraints, and deficiencies and opportunities. We've also put together programmatic floor plans cataloging your existing space types, quantities, and arrangements, and these are complemented with walkthrough photos and a detailed categorical assessment of your facilities for things like site, mechanical, electrical, civil, and then interior architectural elements, architectural finishes, accessibility. Departments have contemporary design factors and considerations presented for each of them as well. So from our walkthroughs, our interviews, and our questionnaires, we've developed a detailed space program to compare what you have to what you need to get us to that bottom line of what we're looking at in terms of an overall square footage for the departments in question. And once we've got that understanding of space requirements, we put together conceptual diagrams to show site and building options. Using all that information, we then put that through a low, high cost per square foot model to arrive at anticipated costs in today's dollars for additions, renovations, or replacement facilities to get us to that, again, bottom line, which we heard there might be some sticker shocks about. So we've gone through each of those departments and kind of given you guys an update of what this looks like. Again, you can find all of this in the report. And as Ryan noted, we do have some changes that we're going to be making, some additional information that will come through that. So if you have any questions, again, we've just recapped here the utilities, the police department, and the city hall as well, since those are the largest big ticket items that we've identified so far with highest priority.
Okay, questions?
There are no walk-through pictures of the wastewater? Water department?
Do you want to see it?
No.
I got plenty of it.
He did that for the safety and security of all involved. They're admitting.
Yeah,
The back end of the water.
I didn't wear my hard hat whenever I went through, but
should have.
after I went through, I thought maybe I should.
you should have.
As you can see, Mayor, the three highest priorities identified by the consultants were a replacement of the water wastewater department, a new police department, and a new city hall facility. Those are, you will see in the report, there's a lot more detail in the report, and that's why I encourage each of you. It's a 90-page report. Or actually, no, it's, yeah, I think it's,
And this is-
93, according to Ms. Green, to be exact.
And this will stay on our iPads so that we can definitely look at this, because it is something that we need to study very hard, because I know from being at all three, it's major issues at all.
And those aren't the only space issues that we have, but those are the three highest priorities. If you'd like a paper copy, we did not print out a paper copy for
Please
everyone
don't.
because it's 93 pages. But if you'd like a paper copy, we'll be glad to provide that to you. We did print out the presentation tonight, but there's a lot of information in here, a lot of recommendations. That these are very sharp folks that we all hired to do this. They worked on quite a few projects in Tennessee and Middle Tennessee, I believe, as White House was one of those, and the White House City Hall that they just built up there was one of those that they worked on as well. So they know what they're doing, and if you haven't visited the White House facility, I would encourage you to do that. It's a very well-designed and well-thought-out facility that'll see them through the future. Obviously, they have different needs than we do because they have different responsibilities without the utilities and things like that. So, but if you do have any questions, they're here.
Feel free to call us or put me on the spot right now. I'll do my best.
And also, we're out of room. If we hired somebody today for here in this building, there's nowhere to put them. And as we continue to grow, and we will continue to grow with the things that we are doing, it is very important that we look at this some more. Yeah.
Overall, though, in the different areas that you've looked at, are we gonna come in cheaper or less money if we go back to the centralized thing that we talked about before, or instead of each?
We
I mean,
won't.
we don't-
We won't come out any, a number of different things went into this, and just to kind of, and I'll spend as much time on it as you'd like me to, but kind of what went into, if you see that their proposal for City Hall, we had talked about, and I was personally fond of a consolidated campus style approach. There are pros and cons to that, I think, but the City Hall, leaving downtown is probably not the best thing for City Hall, leaving downtown and relocating somewhere else. So the proposal for City Hall, or the recommendation in order to accomplish more space, because we are in CC, is to level this building, build it on North Main Street to be flush with the CC district, and then you can put a parking garage where this facility stands. And that would satisfy two things. It would satisfy three things: the center, City Hall, and downtown. You'd have a parking structure for downtown. Obviously, that could be a phased-in type situation. Jacob, what the cost estimate, and Beth, the cost estimate, did that include the parking structure behind?
I believe we had the parking garage included in that one.
Okay.
We do have, so there are some differences in how many spaces you want to build and what type of structure you have. So the range of parking structure costs anywhere from $13,000 per space on the very low end up to, I think contemporary analysis right now is around $30,000 per space.
Okay.
That'd be for post-tension, in-place, concrete parking structure.
I don't know what you just said, but I heard the number, so we'll go with that. Robertson County is about to put a parking structure over on Brown Street. I think that's, I mean, what we have, and we have a condensed and compressed downtown, is there's nowhere else to park. I mean, we run out of areas to make parking lots out of. And so we could satisfy, we oftentimes run into the issue, fortunately for Mr. Martin in the center, is when there are events on the weekends, he has Cheatham Park and Springfield Baptist on Saturday nights that generally do not have anyone in those lots. So that, between that and the City Hall, but that creates there becomes an issue when you all couldn't park anywhere the night there was a youth sports banquet or 8th grade graduation, which coincides with the Planning Commission. So that cuts a two birds with one stone, and I believe their cost estimate. Maybe out all this by saying what's not included as far as a highest priority is a Fire Station 3, because that's already ahead of these.
Right.
So that's already in motion. So we're not talking, I don't want anybody to think, well, I thought we're already in motion on the 3rd fire station, so that's not, these are the 3 that come after the Fire Station 3, right?
This
So-
is suggesting all the recommendations that are being made, that they stay on the existing properties they're on.
Not exactly. If you read the report, you'll see that there's an opportunity, because one of the things they took into account was the Precision Products building, which is where that layout is, which is in there. It's also in the report. I'm not sure which page that's on, Jacob, in the report, but.
Just going across.
But it's also in the presentation of looking at how we utilize land that we already have.
Right there.
One of the issues and factors is acquiring land, right? And so they try to do, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but they try to utilize the existing space, but also look at relocating. And frankly, utilizing the existing space for the PD is not the most ideal.
Yeah,
The same-
that's kind of step one on all of these, is when we look at the existing sites, we try and figure out if you need expansion, is that something that a current site can accommodate? And that's not just from a space needs discussion standpoint where I don't have 5 offices, I need to add 5 offices, right? Especially when we're talking about police department and this room that we're in right now and the way that you folks get in here, safety and security is a big issue, right? How you enter and exit facilities, the way that a full facility is laid out, all of those kind of design considerations let you test whether or not your site can accommodate the kind of improvements that you need for it. So whenever we find that discussion hits an end, then we say, what does an ideal scenario look like? Is there a piece of property where we can test a conceptual layout and see what kind of fitment you have for the program size that you need, the site features that you need, the site circulations that you need, all to accommodate those kind of general, I think a laser pointer, to accommodate these, and this is, pretty small, but whenever you get into these, each one of these departments, we have the kind of design considerations that go into how you would lay out one of these facilities. So we presented it at an overall kind of site concept to test whether or not it fits on your current site or where it might fit. That can give you some indication of the type of property you might need to look for when you acquire, and we can certainly help with developing a matrix for how you would go through a site selection process for any of these facilities. So we took a really holistic view, and what you're gonna see here, again, are just diagrammatic concepts to say, if it goes now, can we build it on a piece of property that we already have? If you can't do that, then what kind of considerations do you need to think about whenever you're looking for a parcel? For City Hall, for example, one of the things that we talked about in terms of adding on to this building, now this doesn't have a great structural foundation, but in this district, on this parcel, you can build up. You can have a hard time building on top of this building already and having it work efficiently, but that's one of the options that you have. Now, other programs don't necessarily work well in stack configurations, so you need to go out.
If I can add one thing, Mayor. If you'll turn to page 19 of the study in your packet, I want to point out to you something that Mr. Cherry just mentioned, and this was something that went into the design consideration into the city of White House. We live in a different world, and I'm sorry to say that, but we live in a world where things are just different. And Jacob brought up safety and security. One of the things that I noticed about the city of White House was how they, because it also doubles as a city courtroom, so we have the city judge, and we've already been through security training. We all did that, and we adopted sort of a protocol based on Chief Head's recommendation, and we went through that. If you look on page 19 in the middle of the page, it says Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It talks about a boardroom. They're conceptual. So the left numbers are the existing, what we have now, and then the right side is the concept, kind of their recommendation. We currently have a 1,500 square foot boardroom with 237 square foot of storage off to the left here. They're proposing to add some additional things onto that, which are efficiency, safety, and security. For instance, an executive session type conference area, and then a secure way to enter and exit the building would be included in that as well, or exit the courtroom or the boardroom as well. So a lot of things like that went into this that need to be thought of when we're designing a facility that we want to last us again for another 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And so I would just draw your attention to those things as you move through, and certainly any questions that you have, they'll be able to answer, or I'll be glad to help as well.
So what is our next step?
The next step is, once this plan, if there are no issues that you all need to see corrected, or concerns that we have about adopting this in its final form, once some things get fleshed out a little bit on a couple of different departments, then that we worked out. I think they were still meeting with, because they've worked hard on this, and they were meeting, I think, with electric today to iron out a few details. And so we would adopt this finally, and then next month, and then proceed to start evaluating what our plan looked like for tackling these things in order.
Okay, other questions? We appreciate what you've done. It was a large task, and we know it's not been easy.
Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, folks. 3.5, discuss and possible take action on a partnership agreement with South Haven Christian School.
3.4.
Oh, I'm sorry, I already marked this down. 3.4, discuss and possible take action on the appointment to various boards and commission. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris. No, that's on the facility study.
There we go.
I've done it to her, I'm sorry. Okay, the appointments of the board. Do we have a motion? Motion made by Alderman Green and second by Alderman Trotter. If you've already reviewed these in your packet, there's been some updates. I want to make sure that everyone sees those. Yes, sir.
I finally got someone to replace the deceased recreation board member from my ward. Harold Barbie will be the new appointee.
Okay.
Harold Barbie.
Harold Barbie.
Is that
Okay.
Skip,
Skip, yeah.
Okay, now we know who Harold is. Mr. Skip Barbie. Thank you. Any other appointments?
Mayor, I
Yes.
had someone resign on the planning commission, or planning committee, and I already had a replacement lined up for that as well.
Okay.
Trying to-
That one's not on here, is it?
It is not, but that's all worked out, so. What was their name?
We need to amend.
Yeah, we'll do a motion to amend and get it squared away.
Mr. Barbie's not on here either,
Barbie'd have
so,
to be also,
yes.
who resigned?
Skylar
Mr.
Tackett.
Tackett.
For our historical commission, Cynthia Barkey, she has been serving and has agreed to serve again. And our construction board of adjustments and appeals at large, because of the passing of Mr. Billy Townsend, who served for a very long time. I would like to nominate Patrick Powell to be on that board. Ms. Green?
Michael Briggs is going to be taking on the position with the planning commission.
Okay. And we have Mr. Harold Barbie for
For
Mr.
the
Hubbard.
recreation.
Recreational. Okay?
Need to,
Yes. Would someone like to amend?
would someone like to amend?
To include the two others on the floor.
Do we have somebody that wanted to amend?
Michael Briggs is on what? Which,
Planning commission.
Give her a second to finish typing that in.
and then Harold Barbie
Yes,
is on what commission?
recreational.
Commission or board? Is it commission or board? Recreational board?
Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Okay. Motion made to amend by Alderman Green and second by Vice Mayor Harris. Are there any questions to the amendment? Any discussion? If no discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, we'll go back on the main motion as amended. Any discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.5, discuss and possible take action on a partnership agreement with South Haven Christian School for use and upgrade of the Legion Field. Motion made by Vice Mayor Harris and second by Alderman Hubbard to discuss. Questions on this? Would you like to speak on this?
Sure, I'll just give you a brief overview of what it is. South Haven has been, is being very gracious in offering to make some upgrades to Legion Field. Mutually beneficial for us and them because they want to use the field and have exclusive use to it, and we're okay with them doing about $30,000 worth of work to the field to upgrade it and get it reconfigured to allow them to use it for high school softball and baseball. That agreement is included in your packet, and so it is a 15-year agreement for them to utilize that facility. They've been leasing that facility as well as leasing MLK Park, the football field for their home football games as well. So they've been a good partner to us, and we're recommending that you all approve the agreement.
Okay, discussion. Yes, sir.
So what does it do to our citizens who want to pick up softball and baseball games? So
They can when they're not being used by the school.
That's
Just-
correct. So if you look at the agreement, they have, it's kind of like they're leasing it in advance, same way they do now. This is just a 15-year lease that gives them the rights during May the months of March, April, and the first 2 full weeks of May for regular season middle school or high school practices or games. So when there are no games, it's not that no one else can use it. There will still be others using it. It's just they have those.
Because I see a lot of them, in afternoon.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Absolutely.
Good question. Other questions? No other questions? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.6, discuss and possible take action on the ratification of the emergency purchase of a traveling screen for the water treatment plant. Motion made by Alderman Green and second by Alderman Hubbard. Any discussion on this traveling screen? No discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.7, discuss and possible take action on a grant application for the Surface Transportation Block Grant. Motion made by Alderman Green and second by Alderman Hubbard.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Very briefly, you all approved earlier tonight a policy that TDOT is requiring now for a consultant selection on any project that is state funded. I wanted to let you know that this funding, if you look in your packet, the $1.9 million of TDOT funds is actually a portion of that which we turned down for the Batson Parkway extension. And so we are still eligible for that money to utilize that, but we're utilizing it this time for repaving rather than constructing a new road, which bypasses a lot of the environmental hoops and red tape that TDOT requires. So this is for resurfacing. You can see the roads that will be resurfaced, about 5.8 miles of road, the various streets in the city that will be repaved as a result of this project.
Very good.
Thank you for the explanation. No discussion, we're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. 3.8, discuss and possible take action on an agreement with Robertson County to accept and provide for the administration of a contribution toward water and wastewater infrastructure projects for the Robertson County TDEC art allocation of funds. Motion made by Alderman Green and second by Vice Mayor Harris to discuss. This is just bookkeeping.
Accepting free money. Accepting their donation, I guess.
No discussion. Let's vote real quick while they still have free money. No discussion. We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you. We're ready for our consent doc.
Mayor, without objection, I move take as one.
Yes, sir. Motion's been made to take it as one. Do we have a second? Any? Okay, thank you. Any questions? Any discussion on the consent doc? No discussion? We're ready for a vote. Anyone like to change their vote? Please record the votes. I will remind you that Springfield High School has a football game Friday night. Oh, I didn't let you tell you the vote, sorry. I got so excited about football being back. Tell us the vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, sorry. I got excited and off on football because it's been a while since we've had Springfield High School football. I know you're all gonna come out and watch the game between Springfield and Greenbrier. I'm gonna turn it over to our city manager, Mr. Ryan Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. As you all know, Mr. Townsend and Mr. Jameson, two recent very great members of our community that passed away. We'll be having proclamations next month and hope to have their family. That's what we're trying to line up. So we'll have proclamations for them at the September meeting. As far as our executive session goes, last month, we should hope to have a conference scheduled with the attorney soon to move that process forward. Our Citizens Police Academy is coming up. I would encourage anyone who hasn't gone through that program. The fall cohort will be starting soon. It's an opportunity to get to understand from the inside what our police department does, the customer service that they provide, and how they provide that customer service. It's a great opportunity to see that and do some cool stuff. If we're just being honest, you get to do some cool stuff at the same time. Rain has affected tremendously, and so I will apologize in advance to those of you who are getting complaints from your constituents about grass that is high. Rain, it's a double whammy because rain obviously prevents mowing contractors and those that mow from staying on schedule, but it also makes the grass grow faster. So it just exacerbates the problem, and that's what we're running into now. So we are tracking down those that need to mow their grass and letting them know that that needs to be done, and hopefully the rain will cooperate where we can do that, and they can do that. We have grass of our own that we need to mow as well. And lastly, I'll draw your attention to 5.0 in your packet. There are a couple of things that are required of you all to be notified in there. First is the airport report. You'll see the how many total flight operations the airport had in July. The takeaway there is over 2,500 airplanes either took off or landed in July, which is incredible to think about our local airport that has that much activity. We also have the utility write-off memo. You'll see we provide that to you all of balances that were unable to be collected and had been sent to collection agencies, or that were small balances that were written off. Also then finally 2 memos from the comptroller's office that you will see dealing with a variety of items. So take a look at those, please, and let us know if you have any questions.
Okay.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
We're having sort of major mosquito problem, especially around 17th and Ben Street and those areas. And some of the property, I think, belongs to us. And so I would like to see you
Sure.
come up with something, okay?
I'll get with you on that, figure out exactly where that is.
Okay.
I thought we were going to propose an ordinance to ban mosquitoes next month. That would be awesome, too.
I would enjoy
As many
that,
of them
especially
that-
when you're playing golf.
That's right.
Can I ask a question? The DDT spraying, that stuff don't happen anymore, that's gone.
We don't spray, no, sir. We don't, we spray,
Is that totally banned in the state? I mean, they don't really do that.
yeah, I think that particular chemical, I believe, is, but I think there's still ways to spray, but I'll find out where that
Please.
property is.
There's lots of restrictions on where you spray and how close you can spray to water. Mr. Gray, did you have something?
Miss Linda Lambert,
Oh, yes, yes.
please mention that.
Miss Linda Lambert that's worked at the golf course since the inception of the golf course, and she ran the food production in the kitchen there. And a lot of us know Miss Linda, and we are so sad to see her passing. And I think her visitation will be tomorrow and her funeral the next day. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
One of my workout partners is having his 92nd birthday tomorrow.
And what's his name?
Mr. Jake, what is,
Wayne Lennox's
Wayne
father.
Liddy's father. A beautiful man, a hard-working man.
Thank you for sharing. This meeting is adjourned.